Good Mom and Monday. You're here with the Mistaken Mama podcast. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Mandee.
And we are your hosts.
This week we are going to be talking about mom guilt.
Got a lot of that.
Got a lot of it. Yep. But first we want to talk about our wins, fails, and books that we're reading currently.
Yes.
So what book are you currently reading?
I am still reading The Finish Line.
Okay.
I kind of took a step back from reading a little bit, just to kind of get caught up on some stuff with my social media and stuff, especially with the whole TikTok ban thing. At the time of reading or watching this, we pre-record these things, and so the TikTok hearing just happened, and I've been trying to figure out what I'm gonna do if that happens to to try to stay relevant.
Have any other platforms come forward to say hey, we can be?
There is a kind of TikTok wannabe called Clapper.
I feel like I've kind of heard of that.
Yeah, I made an account on it, so I mean, feel free to follow me there if you really want to. I don't know how much is on it at this point. Right now, there's nothing on it.
Yeah. At
the time of recording this.
Yeah.
I don't know how much or what will be on it at the time of you watching this.
Mm-hmm.
But if there is stuff on there, cool beans. I'm hoping that doesn't happen, mostly just because the TikTok ban is way more than the TikTok ban.
Right.
It's way deeper than that.
Yeah, you were sending me that yesterday.
Yeah. But yeah, so I took a step back to try to figure all that stuff out. So I'm just kind of still reading The Takeover.
Okay.
Again, audiobook. It is what it is.
Right.
And then still reading The Finish Line. So nothing new there.
Okay. I finished the 50 Shades series.
Ooh.
Finished that a few days ago. And then I just started the Crescent City series. There's 2 out right now, and the third one's coming out next January, I believe. Could be wrong on that.
Really quickly, for those of you who are watching and listening to this, if what we are reading seems out of order, we ended up having to reorder when certain episodes came out, because there was a issue with a video that was supposed to go out that we ended up having to completely redo, and then things ended up getting mixed up. Hopefully from, what is it, episode 7 going forward, there shouldn't be that issue anymore.
Yeah.
Because I think it was 5 through 7. 4 through 7?
I think it's 4 through 7.
4 through 7 got all jumbled up.
Yeah.
So apologies there.
Yeah, you'll just have to kind of just agree. Just say yeah.
Yep.
Cool, you guys are reading books all over the place.
Yep, so I'm pretty sure when you're hearing this, she's going to have another episode in a couple that's going to be like, I just started the 50 Shades. And you're like, didn't she just finish that? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just pretend.
Excuse that.
Because we talk about this stuff in the moment in real life.
Right.
But sometimes it doesn't always come out in order.
Yeah.
And so apologies for that, because I know that this is one of the first ones in the jumbled up mess.
Yeah.
That gets posted. I think it's the second.
I think so, yeah.
Because episode 4 ends up being different. This one's episode 5 for you guys.
Right.
Episode 1, 2, and 3 are in the correct order.
Yeah.
And then it's 4, 5, 6, and 7 that are all messed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
We tried really hard to make it not messed up, but it just worked better to reorder it.
Mm-hmm. So apologies.
Bear with us.
Bear with us. We're trying.
We're still new.
We are.
But yeah, so I started the Crescent City books.
Mm-hmm.
And
who's that by?
It's the same author who wrote A Court of Thorns and Roses.
It. I almost started doing this again. I caught myself right at that moment. Don't do it.
I think her name's Sarah something. Sarah Moss.
Sarah J. Moss.
Yes.
With 2 A's, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's why I wasn't sure if it was Moss. Something.
Sorry. I say the ah sound.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of ah.
Okay. So I started that, and I have been warned that the first half of the book is a lot of information thrown at you. And I think I'm only on chapter 2 or 3, and I can concur. a lot has been thrown at me that I'm trying to just like let sit in the back of my mind because I've been told that it gets better and it makes a lot of sense later on.
Okay.
But right now it's just like so much information.
As a writer, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
The doing a slow release and having people be confused at certain parts, or giving people
all the
so
information.
Much
yeah.
right away.
It's a lot of world building. So it's like telling me like the different people and like their levels and whatever and how they fit in with this thing. And I can't even explain it well because I don't understand it yet. So it's just a lot, but I like it so far. It's not a book that I'm reading and I feel like I have to put away.
Got you. I've definitely had books like that where I'm just like, okay, can't do this right now.
Nope. So let's talk about fails and wins.
Really quickly.
Okay. Oh, yes.
This is the first time you've seen this here. If you are interested in purchasing my book, we will have a link in the description or bio or wherever you're watching this to purchase the book.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Anyways, we can move on.
Okay.
Wins and fails.
Wins and fails. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first because I'm really excited to hear yours.
Okay.
And so I'll say both so that I can just hear your story and just get right into it. Okay. So my mom fail is, so we've had this like old dining table set up that we got from an estate sale that we got like 2.5-ish years ago. And we just got rid of it because we were like, okay, with the 4 chairs and 5 people in the family, it just really wasn't working great because we had our little, high chair thing that you can attach 2 chairs on one of the 4 chairs. And so me and Thomas really couldn't sit at the table. And so we got rid of that. We sold it. And we got a new setup. Well, while we were setting it up, we have like a bench. I'll throw a picture up here so you can see what the setup looks like. We have the bench in the corner. That one took forever to set up. And once we got it set up, my son decided to jump off onto a broken down box that had like all the foam and plastic and stuff shoved inside of it. And it was kind of a flat box because it was what the table came in.
Right.
And so it was about, I don't know, a foot tall, give or take, and really wide.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that stuff laying flat inside of it, so it was kind of like a bumpy box or whatever. So when he jumped onto it, it wasn't a flat surface. And he just ate shit. He ended up hitting his bone on his right eye on something. I don't know what it was. So now he has like a cut there and it is bruised. He has a big old bruise on his leg from where he smacked his shin on the bench because it's an L shape. So he jumped off of one side of the L and then ended up smacking it on the edge of the other side.
Good times.
And then he has another bruise like on his jawbone on the side that has the cut on his eye. So that's my mom fail.
So he looks beat up.
He he looks like he's been at it.
Yeah.
Gosh. Mom win though. I just went to the Jeff Dunham concert, or not the concert, but show or whatever, which is what her win in fails is going to be talking about because she watched my 2 older children. But my win in this is that I actually had to bring Ellie with me. This was a 2-hour and 15-minute show, and we were in like row 10, and this was in Eugene. And so if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I was there, so was I. But I had to bring her. She was so good.
Good.
She fussed a tiny bit towards the very, very end, but very easily consoled. Just nursed her. She was fine.
Yeah.
She was so quiet, and she did not sleep the entire time. She watched.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah. There were a couple times where like there was one point in the show where I don't remember exactly what had happened, but I want to say it was with Ahmed, the dead terrorist or whatever, that like everybody started bringing out their phones and doing the light thing. And so I picked up Ellie and she thought it was really funny.
That is
funny. Everybody around us were like laughing. When we first got down there, everybody's face was kind of like, oh God.
You brought a child.
There's a baby here. But then like everybody chilled out as soon as they were like, oh, this is a chill baby.
Yeah. I totally get that. When my mom and I go to the gymnastics meets, we always bring Quincy. And we had one lady behind us. She was there every time that we were there. And on this last meet that we went to, she leaned forward. She's like, your baby is so good. Half the time, I don't even know that she's here. And I'm like, thank you. I'm glad she's not a bother to anyone.
It's always, like, I can see the fear and, like, the... in people when they realize that there's a baby near them and they're like, oh, this baby is going to cry this whole fucking time and I'm not going to be able to hear anything. And so I was nervous that was going to happen. Thank God. No, she was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
That's awesome.
I got a lot of compliments at the end being like, she was so good.
Yeah. That's awesome. That always makes you feel good.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. It does. It does. It was great. I had a lot of fun. And I'm really glad I got to go. So thanks again for watching the kids.
I'm really glad you got to go.
Now I'm curious to know how it went because I've only heard little tiny bits and pieces.
So, the first 2.5 hours is my fail.
Oh, no. Right out the gate, man.
The last 2 hours were fine.
Okay.
Minus 1 or 2 minor things.
Okay. So they struggled at first.
So,
all right.
Kaylee dropped them off. Everything was dandy. They started to play. Okay. These boys, man, do they go at it.
Oh, no.
So your son is a swinger.
Yes.
He will throw a punch. He will flail his arms. And he will just knock a kid down. Okay?
He has an older sister who is tough.
Yeah. Oh, Anna, at some points, she was like, yeah, Damon does that to me sometimes too. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
And my son is, he'll scratch you and he'll grab your face with his claws and just hold on so tight. And so that's why Damon left with some scratches on his face.
Man. Thomas must have seen those because I definitely didn't.
Yeah, they were... And Maverick started to realize that when Damon was hitting him or screaming, if he just grabbed onto his face with his claws, Damon would stop. And Damon would just cry. And so that was his immediate go-to every time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so about after an hour, I was thinking, what have I got myself into? What have I agreed to? This is chaos. I was panicking. Michael called me at one point to just see how it was going within that hour. He didn't even get to talk to me because I was just like, no, Damon, Maverick, Dean, no, Anna, stop touching them. Just give me a minute. Quincy, hold on. Quincy's crying. I'm trying to let her like not be on the floor with the boys because they're like literally going at it. Anna's like trying to get in between them like, stop. You know how she does. I'm trying to help.
Mother in her.
Yep. And so then after that first hour, I was like, let's find a movie. Let's do something else. So I was like, what can we all agree on? They all agreed on Incredibles.
Cool.
Put that on. Watched maybe 2 minutes of it. And then it was back at it. Okay. So this is cool. Awesome. Loving this for me. And then both of your kids plus mine are like, eat, hungry, snack.
Oh, of course.
And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to give a major snack here. So they all settled on a graham cracker. So each of them ate a graham cracker. I was like, cool, perfect. Small, but it should subside you. So then they did that. And then Incredibles was over.
Oh no.
And I was like, I'm gonna find something else. So I put on Maverick's Brother Bear that he really likes, that he's pretty mellow about. All of a sudden, they're all quiet.
Brother Bear as in like the name
Little Bear.
Oh, Little Bear.
Sorry,
okay.
not Brother Bear.
I was
Little
like,
Bear.
You said Mavericks.
Yeah,
so...
Little Bear, my bad.
Okay.
They all calmed down. They all sat down. They all watched it.
Oh.
And I was like...
Well, it was new for my kids. My kids had never seen that before.
Yes. So I was like, oh, this is the answer. Little Bear it is. So I left that on. They were great. I was able to make cornbread.
Oh.
I was able to start chili for my dinner. Like, everything was going good. Quincy was cool on the floor. Anna was like playing peekaboo with her. Everything was totally fine. Your husband says, I'm on my way, just got off work. And I'm in the kitchen and I hear a loud scream. This is still part of my win, but here's the end fail. Okay. I'm in the kitchen. I hear a scream from my son and he comes running to me like panic in his eyes, just
no.
like devastation. I was like, what's going on? What's going on? He's like, ow, ow, ow. And I was like, what? And I'm like trying to look at his, grab his finger and see it. And Anna's like, Damon bit him. It's like, what?
How did Maverick's finger get in his mouth?
I don't know, but he for sure had a big old bite on his finger, and he just kept saying, ow, ow. And I was like, Damon, dude, come on, we don't bite, man. And he just...
Jesus. Yeah, he's been biting a lot, and I don't know what's going on.
Hey, Maverick went through that. I totally get it. It's a shitty face.
Mine's older than yours, though, so what the fuck? I thought that, like, it would be mine would go through stuff, and then yours would go through stuff, and then we'd be done with it. But no, it's the other way around.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a fail in the first half. Felt like a win in the second half. Got a lot done.
Oh, gosh. They're definitely a handful.
They know how to brawl.
They do. Yeah. I think that I genuinely believe that they'll get along eventually. Because they have moments where they're like, yeah, this is fine. Yeah.
The other thing at the end, so it was after the bite, literally just about to leave, like shoes were on and everything. Damon walks up to Maverick and just gives him a hug. Oh. And Maverick gives him a hug. And then Anna comes and she's like, I want a hug too. I have a picture of it. I can show you.
Oh, yes. Yes, please.
We might be able to insert it because I don't think any of their faces show. But they're all three just in a triangle, just hugging it out.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. Well, that means it wasn't a terrible day, right?
Yeah.
And as I'm like getting Damon ready to go, I just see like claw marks on his face. He has like a nail mark on his neck. And I'm just like, oh my God. So Kaylee's never going to let him back over here.
It's all good.
I was just happy that it was not like just Damon was attacking. It wasn't just Maverick attacking. They were both equally going at it.
Yeah.
So
it always sucks when it's just one of them.
Right.
Because like if it's the other kid, unintentionally you're going to hold a grudge.
Right.
And you're going to be like, never letting this get over again.
Right, yeah. Or if it's just your kid, you're like, oh my God.
I'm
like,
a horrible parent.
Yeah, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything right.
Yeah.
Speaking of mom guilt.
Literally.
I know. I always feel bad when Maverick like attacks other kids. I feel like he's never just attacking to attack. There's always a reason, obviously. Like Damon had his toy, or Damon likes to scream. That's the other thing I learned.
Yeah.
And Maverick, you could tell in his face, he's like, what are you doing? And Damon's just screaming. And by the end of it, Maverick would just scream back at him. Because he's like, what are you doing?
I think a lot of that stems from back when he was a lot littler and he couldn't physically defend himself from Anna. Anna would like take his toy or something and he would learn to use his voice first. Right. And so now that's just kind of one of his defense mechanisms. Yep. And now my littlest one now she screams. Yeah. and so.
Fun.
It's great at my house. I'm fine.
Yeah. I can imagine a lot of screaming.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot.
There was one point where they were all in the back bedroom and I was changing Quincy out in the living room and Anna comes running out.
Was she like hyperventilating?
Yeah. And she was like, Mandy, Maverick just hit Damon. And I was like, okay, I don't hear any screaming from the kids. Yeah. But I'm like going back there to check. And as I'm going back to there to check, Maverick's running out because Damon hit him back.
Oh, of course.
And I was like, okay, both of you need to keep your hands to yourself. And Anna's like, Damon did nothing. He is innocent. He did nothing. Oh. And I was just like, well, they're both going at it. And she goes, no, he didn't do anything, Mandy. And I was like, okay, how about anyway? Doesn't matter. Everybody keep their hands to themselves.
Jesus Christ.
She really was defending her brother.
Which, I mean, like.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Because, like, we always tell her, like, you need to protect your brother.
Right.
It comes back to bite you in the ass sometimes when you're trying to discipline.
It was just so funny because I know that she witnessed Maverick hit Damon. And she didn't witness Damon hit Maverick. So to her, she was like, he did nothing wrong, Mandy. And I'm like, I know, but I saw things like...
Oh gosh, that's
Yeah.
hilarious.
It was a funny day. By the end of it, I was like, whew, I made it. And it wasn't so bad in the end. But the beginning, I was like, if this continues for the whole time, I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah, it's hard, especially because they're at an age where they can't communicate their problems. So I know that there's only up from here. But this is a not so fun time.
Yeah. And I mean, they're both at the age where they're still trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And communicate. They both don't communicate the greatest yet.
Yeah.
So.
And so, like, you know, they can't really, and like, even though we can understand them in certain things, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can understand each other.
Right, yeah.
And so, like, no mine. Damon says no me now. Which.
Yes, he was doing that.
Does not make sense.
Yeah.
Unless you know what he's trying to say.
Right.
Which, you know, he's trying.
I had to take a couple things away from Damon, too. Damon has
Fair.
the tendency to pick up very heavy things and...
Oh my God. Yes.
And then I would be like, okay, if you do that again, I'm going to have to take it from you. And then he would do it again and I'd take it from him. He goes, no. I'm like, dude,
Okay, he gets
I
like
warned
this-
you. Yeah.
Very,
sad
very
about
sad.
it. Yeah.
Like, and the drop of his head and then just the defeat. Oh God, it's
After
so
every
cute.
time they would fight, he would do that. After I would get it broken up and I'd be like, we don't hit each other. And he'd be like, hit. I'm like, yes, you were doing it too, buddy.
Yeah. I'll be like, go say sorry, and he'll go, and then he'll walk up to you and go,
Yeah, he kept doing that and I didn't know if that was his sorry.
It is.
And Anna was like, he's saying sorry.
Yep, that's his.
Like,
that's his sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, he can't say it yet, so he
Right,
just
yeah.
walks up. Hit.
Yeah. That's exactly what was happening.
Gosh. Okay. Well, I'm glad that it went.
Yeah. In the end, totally fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine. The beginning, I was just like, oh my God, what is happening?
I think that's a really good segue, though, into the
Yeah.
guilt part, because there
Seriously.
is so much guilt that kind of like surrounds, like the way that your kids behave too. But I know that mom guilt typically is referring to a lot of other things too.
Right.
So,
I think my biggest guilt comes from, lately, it comes from yelling.
yes.
Because they are at a stage where they don't communicate. And by they, I mean our 2-year-olds.
Yes.
They're at a stage where they can't communicate that well. And so I find myself, you know, raising my voice more or getting frustrated quicker than I used to. My patience has gone downhill a little bit.
Same. I feel that, and it's definitely gotten worse for me, a little bit more so after having Ellie. And I think it's just because, like, I don't know, you want that calm and then you don't get it. But yeah, for me it's yelling too. Also with the whole, like, oh God, they use screens way more than I really wish they did. And I don't like get on the floor and play with them as much as I wish I did. Partly because, like, I have a lot to do, but then also partly because, like, God, sometimes I just don't want to.
Right.
I really struggle with that.
I do too.
I've been trying to, especially with Anna, like with Damon, it's a little bit easier to play with him because he loses interest really quickly.
Right. He'll want to roll a ball back and forth for 2 minutes and then he's on to the next thing.
Yep. Whereas with Anna, so I've tried to utilize the whole, she's using screens, but I still need to play with her and whatever, as like a balance, because now she's playing Minecraft.
Oh, okay.
She just started figuring out how to play that. And so she was like, Mom, do you want to play with me? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
So we've been playing Minecraft together.
Okay.
And I've been helping her figure out how to build.
So it's something you can do together.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not super big into Minecraft. I think I've only ever played it a handful of times. But it's fun to watch her imagination. Right now she is hooked on building a purple tree house.
Oh, okay.
With a purple bed and purple stairs.
So
and
purple's the color right now.
Purple's the color right now. Technically, it's like the crimson blocks, but it looks purple.
I've never played, so I don't know.
I'm telling the people.
Okay.
It's the crimson something. She's been obsessed with that.
Okay.
I was like, she's like, you can build something else. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I built a castle made out of diamonds.
Cool.
Because I was like, I'm going to just make something big, bold, and random. And so that's what I did. And then I put lava in the walls because I was like, that's just...
Because why not?
Because why not?
Yeah, one of the things that I like doing with Maverick is he has those big blocks. Your kids have the same ones, the Lego ones. Mm-hmm. And he started to really like to build with those, and he likes to build up as tall as he can, and he's started to do a little bit of imaginative play, where he will like put two together and be like, mama, meow, meow, meow.
Yep. And Damon tries to do that. It never makes sense.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, look. And you're like, oh, wow, it's something. it's very nice. And then they're like, meow.
Yep.
You're like, oh, cat. And you're like, cat.
You're like, how could you not see that, Mom? Yeah, I like that kind of imaginative play because I don't really have to do anything back other than acknowledge the fact that that's what it is. Whereas, like, sometimes Anna wants to play Barbies with me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say. Because sometimes I say things and it's not what you want me to say.
Wrong.
Yeah. No, she would say this. And I'm like, how am I supposed to know that?
Yep, I have to keep reminding her, like, okay, I can't read your mind, so I don't know what you want me to say. And then I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? What are we doing? I've learned that if you are playing more than one Barbie, though, like if you have a group of Barbies that you are in charge of, and then she just has the one, it's a little bit easier to play than if you're trying to do one Barbie each, because she will change which character she's talking to, and it's kind of easier to adapt that way.
Yeah.
At least I've noticed.
Yeah.
Her favorite thing right now is like playing store.
Yes, she was doing that here. And she was getting really mad at the boys who didn't understand the concept of you have to pay for this item before you take it. So they were just taking it. And she's like, you're stealing from my store.
Oh, God. Yeah, she definitely doesn't. She doesn't understand that they don't understand.
Yeah,
she's not old enough to like. So it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. That is one of the things that I feel guilty about is not playing with him enough, getting down on the floor and playing with him enough, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely thought, like, before I became a mom, they're like, oh, I'm going to love playing Barbies and dress up and stuff. But I just don't have the imagination that I used to.
Right.
And it is so hard.
There's certain things that I like to do, but then there's certain things that it's like I almost not have to force myself, but in a way, I guess, kind of force myself to actually do with him, and I just don't enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I genuinely thought that I would love every aspect of being a mom. Especially because, like, you'd think that the play part would be a fun part, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's very stressful.
Right.
And you don't think that it would be.
Yeah.
But it 100% is.
And I think you bring up a good point by saying, like, you thought that you would love everything about motherhood. I think that's where a lot of people's guilt comes from.
Yeah. Is
not enjoying 100% of it. And then you feel guilty, like, I love being a mom, but I just don't love this part. And why don't I love this part? And,
yeah.
You know.
And we also live in a world right now where we are blamed almost for wanting to be a mom. And then a lot of people, not everybody, especially on social media, though, a lot of people will be like, well, you wanted to be a mom, so why the hell are you complaining?
Right, exactly. You wanted this, especially like stay-at-home moms. Like, you wanted to stay at home with your kids. So why don't you enjoy staying home with your kids? Why are you complaining that you had a hard day? Like, at least you get to stay home.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that so much. And I've actually stopped, for the most part, talking about that I'm a mom on most of my social medias.
Yeah.
And my primary, like, because I have two main Instagram accounts. I have my, like, content creation one that I do not post pretty much anything about me being a mom on there.
Right.
And then I have my, like, actual one, which is completely private. I'm very cautious about who I allow in there now.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep those two lives separate. Because I don't want that to be part of my internet personality, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there is so much criticism.
So much.
And I mean, we're here, but this is very specific. And we're not pretending.
Right.
here. This is honest.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to piss off some people.
Right.
You know, I know that a lot of our target audience will appreciate the honesty that we're having here.
Yeah.
And will be able to relate to it. And you know what, if we need to be the first ones to say something, being like, I don't love every aspect of being a mom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I hate certain things.
Yeah.
I go through moments where I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a mom right now.
There's some days where we're literally counting down the minutes to bedtime.
Mm-hmm. But then, when they're asleep, and they look real darn cute.
You miss them so much.
I have had bad days where, wow, I'm getting emotional. Hold on. I had a really bad day. It was a few years ago. And it would have been when Damon was still a baby. Mm-hmm. And it was when Thomas was working down here and I was still living up there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was during that time. So I was basically a single mom. Mm-hmm. But also, I wasn't working. It was weird. It was a weird situation. Yeah. My husband had to move down to Oregon before us because our lease wasn't up. But he got a job. He lived with my uncle. Mm-hmm. It was a process. And so I was a full-time stay-at-home single mom. Mm-hmm. Essentially for like, was it 2 months or something like that?
About, I think.
And so I got a little taste of what like non-working military wives who are also moms kind of get at whatever at. I don't know how y'all do that.
Yeah.
For year-long deployments. I really struggled. But we had a really, really bad day, and she had her toddler bed in our room at the time. And after Damon had fallen asleep, I laid him down and I scooped her up. She was asleep. And then I just pulled her into my arms and we just slept together because I could not bear going to sleep knowing that the day ended the way that it did. Because it ended with her going to bed really upset and me laying her down and being like, you just need to go to sleep. I'm just done. I'm done. Right. I can't.
Yeah.
And so she went to bed upset. And I ended up waking her up on accident when I picked her up. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I'm sorry for how today ended. And she's like, it's okay, Mommy. And then she like curled up to me and we both fell asleep together. And God, that night I felt so guilty, which is why I picked her up and brought her into my arms.
Right, yeah.
It was a bad day.
I recently had one of those with Maverick where it was just chaotic day. Couldn't get anything to go right. And he really badly wanted to watch a movie, but he had watched TV essentially all day. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, we're done with TV. It was probably like 4 or 5 o'clock. It was 5 o'clock. And he crawled up into my arms and he just fell asleep on top of me. And he hasn't done that since he was like...
Was that day that you had the picture?
Yeah. And so I was like, well, it's 5 o'clock. You shouldn't be taking a nap right now because you're not going to go to sleep tonight. But I don't even care. So I just let him sleep for an hour on me. Mm-hmm. And it was just, I don't know. Sometimes you need that.
Sometimes you do.
I feel like they forgive us for so much. And that, in turn, makes me feel even more guilty. Because I'm 100%. Like, it's almost like, you know how they say, like, a dog will always be loyal to you? Like, you could do anything to a dog and it will always be loyal. Like, in those moments when I'm, like, yelling at him or I'm getting so frustrated with him or whatever... I feel like, why are you forgiving me? Like, I'm being an asshole right now. I'm yelling at you and you're just trying to figure out the world. Yeah. You know? Mm-hmm. So, a lot of guilt comes from yelling lately.
Same.
I hate it.
God. I've been trying so hard to not yell. And I feel like I'm doing a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And trying instead to be like, okay, well, if I need to get my voice above theirs, I need to raise in volume, not in tone.
Right.
Which is the problem. I've been raising in tone and volume. Mm-hmm. And so not only am I louder, but I'm also sounding a lot meaner.
Right.
I'm like, okay, there's a difference between being mean and being stern.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to remind myself that there is a big difference there. And be like, okay, get their attention, but then lower your voice again.
Right.
Or get down on their level and get their attention without raising your volume. Yeah. Like, I've been trying so hard because I do feel really bad. Because they don't deserve that.
No. And for me, it's like the look in Maverick's eyes when I know that I've taken it a volume tone too high. And he just looks at me like I just murdered his goldfish. He doesn't have a goldfish, but that's what I imagine that he would look like. Like, he just looks at me like, what? Like, how could you talk to me like that? And I always feel so bad. And I am huge on apologizing to him whenever I do feel like I
Same.
overstep that.
Yep.
I am always like, Mommy is very sorry for yelling at you. I should not have yelled at you like that. I was trying to get my point across to you, and that's not how I should have done that. And he'll give me a big hug. And then after that, I can set him down, and he's usually calm by then. And I can set him down and be like, okay, the reason I yelled at you was because you were sticking your finger down your sister's throat. And we can't do that because that would hurt her. That would choke her. And then he usually is like, yeah. Yuck. You know how he gets.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm really big on the apologizing too.
Yeah.
I definitely think that in previous generations there has been so much pride that I'm trying not to have that.
Right.
Like if I do something wrong, I try to apologize as quickly as possible.
Same.
Being like, okay, Mommy really shouldn't have done that. Next time I'm going to try harder to maybe do something else. If I'm doing something bad, can you try to remind me? Because sometimes Mommy forgets.
Yeah.
Specifically to Anna.
Yeah.
She'll be like, yeah, that was bad. That was a bad Mommy moment. Like,
Yeah.
yep, it was. Mommy shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Right. It's so hard to find the balance. Because you obviously, like, you have to teach them. You have to be their, like, I don't even know the word for it. Parent.
Yeah.
Their guide. Their guide. Their, you know, but you also can't just puppet master them.
As much as I would like to think that there are perfect moms out there, there's not.
Right. Social media is a huge problem with that.
Yes.
Huge.
There's a lot of people out there that like to pretend that they have it 100% together. And especially like comment warriors that'll sit there and be like, well, I would never.
Right.
Like, Susan, honey.
Yeah.
You done spanked your kid this morning. Don't tell me you don't yell at them.
Right. Yeah.
It's like nobody here is perfect. And pretending you're perfect.
It just makes it harder on everyone.
Exactly. And it's like, I have a firm belief that if anybody acts like they're perfect, that tells me that they are anything but.
Right, yeah.
And it's the ones who either acknowledge out loud or at very least acknowledge to themselves like, oh God, I fucked up.
Yeah.
Those are the good moms. The truly good, amazing moms. Because it takes a lot of effort to not make mistakes.
Right.
Even more to realize that you made one.
Right, and acknowledge that.
And to try to do something different next time.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to make mistakes. Even the best people will make mistakes sometimes.
Right. I feel like it's hard to... I'm totally for gentle parenting. Respectful parenting, however you want to call it. I feel like TikTok and social media platforms have taken that to like a whole nother level.
And now it's permissive.
And now it's like, let your kids walk all over you. Let them do whatever they want, because if you tell them anything, you are ruining their adulthood.
Yeah.
You're ruining the essence of them.
Exactly. And I think that gentle parenting is more along the lines of, okay, I'm going to try to say the right word, authoritative. Because authoritarian is the like military type.
I think so,
whatever.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure authoritative. I'm going to throw the definitions up here so that if I'm saying the wrong word here, there's authoritarian, authoritative, and permissive. Respectful parenting kind of sits mainly within the realm of that middle one, I'm pretty sure, which is authoritative, which essentially means that you're not a dick to your children, but you still set boundaries and you hold firm on those boundaries.
Right.
But you're also willing to bend on some boundaries if they're able to make a good point.
Right.
Like if you're like, be home by 10. That's my boundary. We're pretending we're talking to teenagers here. And they're like, well, can I stay out till 10:30 because XYZ? Okay, you make a good point. Sure.
Yeah.
Because that's not permissive.
Right.
Permissive would be if you were like, be home by 10 and they're like 11. You're like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Because you say so, dear.
Right.
That's permissive.
Just going with what they're saying.
Yeah, letting them decide.
Yeah.
Whereas respectful parenting and authoritative, I'm really hoping I'm saying the right word here.
Hopefully we're going to have a lot of editing.
It's just going to be like correction. Pretty sure it's authoritative though.
I think you're right.
Is the, I have respect for you, you have respect for me. We have a mutual respect and that's why this works and we have a good understanding.
Right.
There have a lot of previous generations have, you either are authoritarian or you are permissive, and there isn't a whole lot of in between.
Right.
Or if there is, it heavily leans towards one of the other two versus being a steady in between. I try to be that steady in between and that authoritative of being like, I am going to be dominant over you when I have to be.
Right.
But if you can make a good point, then sure.
Yeah.
And we're going to have that respect for each other. I'm going to say sorry to you. You're going to say sorry to me.
Yeah.
A lot of people see that, though, as being permissive because they were raised authoritarian.
Right. I always try to think of it like, okay, Maverick's doing something I don't want him to be doing. Is it I don't want him to be doing it because it's not safe? Is it he's hurting something? Is he destroying property? Or am I just annoyed that he's doing it?
Yeah, I read something that's called care versus control. Is it because you are caring about them or you are trying to control them?
Right.
And I use that a lot in my household. If my husband is like, no, you can't do that, I'm like, hey, is that care or is that control?
Right.
I'll be like, that's control.
Yeah.
I guess that's fine.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, you can't just say, I guess that's fine.
Yeah.
Why don't you discuss? Because
explain that.
He can get very authoritarian. And then as soon as I'm like, hey, let's maybe try to fall into this authoritative, he instantly goes to permissive. I'm like, okay.
That doesn't work.
He's one of the two extremes. I'm really trying to work with him on being more authoritative and being like, you're allowed to hold a boundary.
Right. Yeah.
It just needs to be a boundary that makes sense to hold.
Yeah. We struggle with that a little bit. Both Michael and I struggle with that. We'll find ourselves like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. And then we'll both kind of be like, but why? Why can't he do that? Why can't he color? He's just asking to color. We want him to not watch the screen as much. So why aren't we letting him color? It's because we are annoyed and don't want to go get out all the colors, make sure he doesn't color on things and so forth.
So whenever I change my mind on something like that, I always try to be like, you know what? You make a good point. I don't see why you can't color. I don't know why I said no originally. Sure, I will go ahead and let you color because I think that's a good idea right now.
Right.
Thomas really struggles with it because he'll be like, you're not going to color right now. I'm like, why not? Like, fine, you guess you can color. I'm like, oh my God, Thomas.
You just did both extremes in one sentence.
Yes. Because I'll always, care versus control. Let's try to get that middle, right there in the middle.
Yeah.
I definitely do a better job at it. I'm nowhere near perfect.
Oh.
But I do a way better job at it than Thomas does. And he's trying.
Yeah. That's something we both try and struggle with, which I don't know anybody who does it perfectly. I don't, like we just said, I don't think anyone's out here just doing it 100% of the time, being perfect. Everybody's going to slip up because we're human, but we are.
Yeah.
And so we're going to mess up. I think as long as we are just acknowledging those mess ups, that's when we can have growth and conversations and become better.
Yeah. My favorite creators that fall within the gentle parenting, respectful parenting, whatever. Gentle essentially just means I'm not hitting you.
Right.
But people have very much swayed that in the completely wrong direction. But the creators that I really like that do kind of fall into that area are honest. They're like, sometimes I yell. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I make the wrong choice.
Yep.
There have even been a couple that have been like, I fucked up and I hit my kid. But then I got down on the floor and I was like, that was very wrong.
Right. And I think it's, whatever we grew up with. And also when a human gets overwhelmed, your fight or flight starts to happen. And yes, it's a small child, but sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
And as long as you're not taking it to the extreme and actually causing like severe harm mentally or physically, I feel like, it can be corrected.
Exactly. And I think that's like the biggest thing when it comes to like mom guilt is like, can I fix this?
Right.
Can I correct this? Is it too late to correct this? Did I already instill the yelling in my kids?
Right.
I've read a lot of places that you have until like age 7 to fully correct what their fundamentals are going to be and to make some different choices. It's never too late to start parenting differently.
Right.
But there will be a point where it's too late to change those fundamentals.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's so important to, as soon as you realize you've started to go down a path of going down an extreme, as soon as you recognize it, that is the moment where you can start to go up.
Yeah.
It's when you recognize it and choose not to do anything about it,
Right.
that you've made a fundamental error.
When you say, oh, well, I guess I've already been doing it this way, so
yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of along the lines of like, oh, well, I've already drank every single day of the year. I might as well do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like my biggest worry, which I know doesn't even make sense, but I always think like, okay, let's say I yelled at Maverick last night. I always think, is this the moment that he's going to remember that I yelled at him because he was about to roll his sister off the couch?
Yeah.
You know, and I raised my voice an octave too high and he is like visibly upset. And I'm like, I had to get your attention. You were, you know, but is that the moment he's going to remember? Is he going to remember his mom yelled at him like that? You know, because obviously there's things that stick out in my childhood. I can't say that my mom wasn't a spanker. And I mean, I can think of a few times that my mom was upset, mostly when I'm older. But I just worry, like, because you always hear that where it's like,
my mom spanked me a couple times as a kid, but honestly, I can't remember any of them.
yeah,
She said like she told me, she's like, I only did it a handful of times, but it just didn't work on you.
yeah,
Because that wasn't the type of parent that I was.
Right.
And that wasn't what I wanted to instill in you.
yeah,
You know, she was a yeller. Which I think is why I became a yeller.
yeah,
Because that's what I grew up with. I can remember a ton of times where she yelled at me, but I can remember a ton of times more. And I know that this is going to be like a win in her case. I don't know why I said it like that, as if that was going to be a bad thing.
I know. I was like, what is it this about?
No. I can remember a lot more times where she would like come in and sit on my bed and she'd be like, we both messed up today, huh?
Yeah,
And I think that's part of the reason why I really wanted to focus on that
right.
with my kids.
Yeah, because you
Getting down
remembered
on
those
level and
moments.
be like, oh, God. Because
Yeah.
it meant a lot to me as a kid.
Yeah.
When she would come in, she'd be like, today was a bad day, huh?
Yeah, my mom would do that. My dad would do that too, actually. My dad was definitely more...
Your dad is in my uncle?
Yes.
Okay.
He was more of a yeller. My mom was just she didn't really yell. If she yelled, you knew that it was like business.
Yeah.
But my mom, at least from what I remember, she was just always the parent that you just didn't... You're not going to act bad around her.
Funny enough, I think that's kind of what it's becoming in my house, because like all... And they're instantly like...
Yeah.
Whereas with Dad, with Thomas, they can skirt around him a little bit.
My dad was the one that we would all push. We would all see what we could get away with.
What is it about that? What the hell changed? Because it used to be like, you don't do anything around Dad. Not like within our family, but like...
Right, yeah.
You know, society books, movies, whatever. Mom, you could like get away with some stuff.
Yeah.
And then Dad, you don't mess with Dad.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you don't mess with Mom.
Yeah. I don't know, because I think like way in the past it had to do with Dad was like the one that came home with the belt. But my mom never was like a belt spanker person. But I don't know. My mom just, she would always hold firm with her boundaries. If she said, this is stupid, but if she said no juice after 5, we were not drinking juice after 5. If my dad said no juice after 5, we would be drinking it at 6 o'clock, and he'd be like, okay, but no juice after 6:30. He always like
pushed those boundaries a little bit. So he was more of like a yelling.
He was always the more lenient parent, but he didn't come off that way, if that makes sense. Like, he would yell about things, but you also knew like you could push him a little further before he was actually mad, or you would actually get in trouble.
Oh, it's so confusing too, because like there is a lot of guilt on the dad's side too. It's different because like I don't know, we have like those instincts that they just don't.
Yeah.
You know, I have had times where like Thomas and I will have like deep conversations like late at night, and we're both getting emotional because, you know, usually it's when we've had a bad day.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, oh, God, when they went to bed, I felt really bad with how today went. And I want to do something different, but I don't know how to fix it.
Right.
And we have like long conversations of like, okay, how about we do X, Y, Z? And we try to figure this out, you know, one thing at a time. And we're both doing better on like little things. And it's about tackling those larger things. Because like one thing that I also want to teach my kids growing up is that parents are not perfect.
Right.
We're going to have mess ups, and so will you.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's why we are so whatever about the apology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michael and I have those conversations almost every night. Where like, what could we have, God, what could we have done better today?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, I feel like I yelled at him too much today. I feel like we let him watch too much TV today. I feel like we didn't take him outside enough today, and whatever it is. And I think that's good that we have those conversations.
Definitely.
Because then the next day's a little better. And maybe we'll have like 2-3 good days in a row where we're like grade A parents, whatever that is. And then we have like 5 bad days where it's like, okay, we let him watch way too much TV this week. We were, quick, snappy at him. We ordered too much takeout. Like, I feel like it's so hard to always be on, like, as a parent.
It is. And it's also one of those things, it's like, God. We have this, I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it is. You'll have to let me know if you kind of feel this way too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard to remember they are only X age. Mm-hmm. Thomas really struggles with this.
Michael does too.
Like we homeschool my oldest. And so she's like technically in kindergarten. She's doing amazing in math. She still struggles with reading and writing though. Mm-hmm. She's slowly getting there. I can definitely like be like, okay, can you read me this word one thing at a time? And sometimes she can.
Yeah.
She really struggles with it though, especially because some letters make more than one sound.
Right. Yeah.
And I have no way of easily explaining to her why it does in some words and doesn't in others, especially because English is a conglomerate of multiple different languages.
Yeah.
And like English only follows like the I before E except for C thing with spelling in some words, only in English derived words. Mm-hmm. But like it doesn't follow that rule. And so we're really struggling with trying to figure out how to explain this stuff to her in a way that just makes sense. And the people that I've asked, they're like, well, these are called sight words for a reason. Yeah. You just know that they say that. Sight.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
But that's so hard to explain to somebody who's just learning.
Yeah. Like she.
Yeah.
She. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't, because why does it make an E sound?
Right.
How do you explain that?
Yeah.
And we've been trying to, like, it just is.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. It just is.
Yeah. That is hard.
And she's like, okay. And so I'm like, well, why the hell am I even teaching you how to sound stuff out anyways? Because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
I remember one of the first words I tried to, like, that I can remember as a old enough to know how to read. Mm-hmm. And I was reading a book. I'm sure I was reading Twilight. He has a Porsche, remember?
Oh, yes.
Porsche is not spelled the way you'd think it. Porsche, Porsh.
Right.
That's not how Porsche is spelled. It's like CHE at the end.
Mm-hmm. Porch.
I'm pretty sure I said it in my head. I was like, yeah, this is probably like an exotic word. Yeah. Exotic. I'm pretty sure I said it was a Porsche or a Porsche or something like that. Yeah. So I was like, close.
Right.
Porsche. I think
Porsche?
I said Porsche in my head.
Yeah.
And I said it out loud in front of my mom, and she's like,
what?
A what? My mom loves to read, and she knew what book I was reading. She's like, hold on. Say that again. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Porsche. She's like, his Porsche? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
There's an E at the end. Yeah. Is it pa? Po?
Right.
Because the E is supposed to make the other vowel say its name. A poach.
A poach.
A poach.
A poach.
A poach.
A poach.
It's a poach. I'm poaching. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But so, anyways, right. Anna struggles to read sometimes. Mm-hmm. We were trying to read a book. It's called Pop, Pop, Pop. We have like the Hooked on Phonics. That's the words.
Oh, okay.
We have that. And they send us books every month. Mm-hmm. And so she reads at like different levels or whatever. And he was getting really frustrated. But like, it was like, I am pig. Mm-hmm. She kept trying to add a pig because it doesn't make sense to her why that would be the name.
Right.
And so she'd be like, we just have to explain to her that I is just I.
Right. It's not
Yeah. Why not? I don't know. Just is. It's hard. And then Thomas feels guilty because he was homeschooled. He's actually the reason we chose to homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't homeschooled always.
Right.
I'm pretty sure he did. I want to say he was homeschooled kindergarten through like 3rd grade or something. And then that's why he ended up getting held back in 4th grade because his reading wasn't up. He was really good with like math and stuff, but his reading was subpar. He was held back in 4th grade. And I'm pretty sure he was homeschooled prior to that.
Oh, okay.
And it was just his reading. Mm-hmm. And so like, I'm like, Thomas, you remember what it was like to not. And I sucked at reading as a kid.
Yeah.
In 2nd grade, I specifically remember, or no, it was my 3rd grade. 3rd grade, I had to go into the 2nd grade room in elementary school to read with them because I wasn't up to where I was. I really sucked at it.
Yeah.
And it was that shame that I felt of having to go into the lower kids' classroom. Literally had to walk across the school during reading time to go there at a specific time and read with them for an hour.
Right.
At their level, that was when I was like, I'm going to get better at this.
Yeah.
And now I'm an author.
And now you've written a couple books.
Exactly. And so like, I know that she just has to, something has to click for her.
Right.
And he really struggles to get that because he's like, why doesn't she just get it? Why doesn't she just get it? I'm like, Thomas, she's 5.
Yeah.
She's not going to know how to read a novel.
More than some kids her age.
Yep, and I have to keep reminding him. I'm like, look at what she's doing with math.
Yeah.
She is very, very smart, but she's like you.
Yeah.
She's not like me.
It's hard to remember their age.
It is.
Because I feel like as soon as your kids start talking, you feel like they should know everything that you know.
Yeah.
And that they should like be able to understand like what they're doing, you know, but they're still exploring. They're still little. They're still figuring out the world. It's still 100% new to them, most things in the world. And
it's hard to remember that they are the age that they are, especially if they have more complex thinking with some things. It's hard to not be like, well, why can't you just apply that to something else?
Right. Right.
You're doing 2nd grade math, so you should be doing 2nd grade reading. You should be reading chapter books already, but it's not that simple.
No. And with like the little kids, Michael and I both catch ourselves with Quincy being like, Quincy, just give us just a minute and then we'll be to you, because we say that to Maverick.
Yeah.
And then we have to correct ourselves and be like, she's a baby. She doesn't understand literally what we're saying to her. To her, she's just like, I need this, so come get me.
Yeah.
But for Maverick can be like, okay, just give me a minute and then I will come fix whatever.
Okay, Ellie takes it. Exactly. Ellie takes it upon herself now to like, if I take a little bit too long to get to her, she's like, fine, I am coming to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she would literally start yanking on my clothes, trying to claw her way up to me.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm coming.
Yep.
It's so hard.
It
because
is.
God, I don't know what it is. Is it just that we're used to being with other adults that can comprehend? But even then, sometimes I'm looking at other adults like, are you fucking stupid?
Yeah. I think it's just when you know something in your head, you expect that everybody else should know it.
It's hard to remember that you've been at that time where you didn't know something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God, I did that to Thomas recently on accident, not even thinking about it. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, this is obvious.
Right.
And I was like, you should know this. Like, this is like common sense. And he's like, it's really not common sense. And we got into an argument over it. And like an hour later, I was like, oh my God, I'm an asshole. I'm so sorry.
I've done that to Michael. Michael's done that to me. Where I can't think of an example right now to give. Sorry. But where it's like one of us knows something and we've known it for so long. It's like, how could you not know it? And then you're basically calling your partner dumb. And they're like, feeling bad about themselves because they're like, well, sorry, I've never known that. And you're like, okay, who's the asshole in this situation?
It's usually me. I'm usually Thomas does it to me sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm also the one who I research everything. I love doing research.
Yeah.
Middle school and high school me would bleh at that idea.
Yeah.
I hated research. Now I love it.
Yeah.
Because I love knowing things. And so Thomas doesn't catch me on that a lot. I'll be like, oh yeah, I actually did know that. But I catch him on that a lot.
Yeah.
Where I'll be like, why don't you know that?
How do you not know that?
Like, right, hold on.
I researched
just
this
because I know something does
not
mean you do.
Yeah.
But I find myself doing that to my kids. I do it less than my husband does because I'm able to catch myself.
Yeah.
Because I've had to catch myself at a lot of times.
Yeah.
Where, I'll say something and someone won't know it. And I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I've been there.
Right.
But I think a lot of it is because I am so young and I know a lot of things that I forget that I know a lot of things because I'm an obsessive researcher.
Right. Yeah.
Where I will just find myself going down a rabbit hole. Like, do you know how Judy Garland died? Because I certainly do.
Nope.
Yeah. I'll literally go on like
About
2
really
hour
dumb
long
things.
rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, now I know XYZ. And I'm going to, someday maybe, somebody will be like, oh yeah, how did Judy Garland die? And I can be like,
I know.
I got you.
Yeah.
I know how she died. I can tell you.
I do that with really, really random things.
Same.
Like the other day, I got this idea in my head that I wanted to get a pet frog for Maverick. And so I went down a rabbit hole of just reading everything you need to do to get a frog. So now I know a lot about having a frog. I don't think we're going to get one. It's a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. I think just a lot causes guilt.
A lot. And
it's not just mom guilt, wife guilt.
Wife guilt, mom guilt,
Just
some
in general
woman guilt.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even have like daughter guilt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I feel like it's kind of just a part of life. And I think that's one of the worst feelings is just feeling guilty because
it is.
Whatever you're feeling guilty about, you wish that you could take back, and that's not an option.
Yeah. But I think that it's important for us to acknowledge that we're feeling that guilt and to think of ways that like, okay, how can I fix this for the future? Move forward, move past it, and do better.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to make mistakes. What's not okay is to make mistakes and knowingly do that again.
Right.
And to eventually numb yourself to that guilt where you don't feel it anymore.
I think as long as you are trying and you're recognizing and you're trying to make changes, then you're doing a good job at the end of the day. It's still hard. Even saying that and believing that, I still struggle with it.
Me too.
So
that was this week's episode.
Yep.
I hope that you maybe feel, now I kind of feel bad for myself here.
I know. Now I almost feel more guilty for talking about it.
But I hope that this kind of validates your feelings, because that's what this is about. We're sitting here and having these conversations and talking about all of these things because it's important to acknowledge them, even though it's hard.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this allowed you guys, our listeners and our watchers, if you're watching on YouTube, to feel just a little bit better and maybe realize you're not alone.
Yeah.
We all
do it.
Having this. Like they say that it takes a village to raise a kid, and sometimes that village is somebody online who makes you feel validated. And so, if you needed that little bit of validation, we're glad that we could be your village today and to make you feel just a little bit better and a little less alone.
Yeah. We all do it.
We're all here.
We all have guilt. We all mess up. If anybody tells you they're perfect, they're lying.
Literally. And don't believe the moms that you're seeing on social media. I try to not appear that way, and I fight that. We'll have to do an episode on that.
You want to show the good parts, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows and happy days.
I'm pretty sure we did do an episode in the original podcast about social media.
I think so.
And whatever. So we'll have to redo that.
Yeah. Would be a good one to rehash.
I think it will, especially because a lot has changed with the emergence of TikTok and stuff.
Yes.
And there's a lot that's gone down. And the new bill that's coming out to protect children of social media influencers.
Oh, yes, I have seen that.
We'll have to address that in the new episode because that's a new development. So if this is something that, you felt good listening to this and made you feel a little bit better, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that follow button, whatever it is, wherever you're watching and listening. Hit the link in the description to see what else we have. We have a website. We have merch. This is not one of the shirts, but this is a cool shirt. And see where else you can listen, watch, and follow us along and parent with us.
Yeah.
Watch us grow. We'll watch you grow. Hopefully this podcast can grow too, because it's a good outlet.
Yeah. I enjoy doing it, and I hope you guys enjoy listening and watching. Yeah, we got the video now. Yeah. Alrighty, well, we will see you guys in next week's.
See you next week's episode.
Bye.
Bye.